In this episode, you'll get a breakdown of the quote, "Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional." Welcome to Energy Alignment for Entrepreneurs, the podcast helping entrepreneurs be free from anxiety, stress, and tension through balancing emotions and consciousness expansion. Here's 3 things you'll find out today. Number 1, how suffering is just pain plus the story. Number 2, why resistance to pain creates more pain. And number 3, what to do when you're drowning in your own narrative. So if we look at the quote, the pain in life is brought to you not as in a curse. And the suffering is where you have the option to appreciate what you've been given or to operate from a place of cowardice. It really starts that simply. Because let's say that you have a physical ailment or an emotional struggle. There are things that you can think about and think about until your mind hurts, until you're blue in the face. You can think all day. And that is the option when you are thinking all day, you're checking the box of suffering. Why would I say it like that? Because you need to think, and pain is inevitable. But when you think and over, it's kind of like the hamster wheel or just a cyclical style of motion where it is predictable. Thought always is based upon a few pillars. If you've been listening for a while, you know the pillars. If not, I'll make them quick and clear. You have your identity, which is everything that comes after I am, or everything that is brought forth when you say me. That identity is always composed of one pillar, which is memory. Your memory is built from your experiences, and your experiences create your knowledge. Then you project how you see the world, your worldview, your identity, your projection is based upon those 2 pillars which create your memory. So if you can understand the relationship between your experiences and how they create your knowledge, and how therefore you have this big pillar of memory guiding how you see everything. The reason I go into that is because you need to have the foundational understanding to go further into the nuance of, okay, if pain's inevitable and suffering is optional, what do we do with that quote? And it is the intricacy, the subtlety of your relationship to pain. Because if you can see pain, and just as you create orange juice or you squeeze a lemon, the juice is the beauty, and you have to juice the pain. If you are resisting and complaining, if your worldview, your identity, the way that you project has not been questioned, then you will likely have gotten some conditioning from others where they say pain is bad. Pain is subconsciously something that a lot of people run from. Now, if you can be present with the resistance, pain is a word, right? It's more than a word, but how we communicate, I want to make clear. The way that I use the word pain, the way that I use the word friction and resistance is quite integrated. They come together. So why would I bring that up? Because it is the resistance that creates the friction. It is the resistance of the pain which creates the suffering. Now, it's hard necessarily to say, okay, when you feel pain, do this, and then you won't create suffering. It would be funny if it was that easy. It probably wouldn't even be worth talking about if it was that simple. So we're obviously in an interplay of we can see that I'm talking to you from a standpoint of you have an identity, but you also have something beyond your identity. And your consciousness is kind of like Alan Watts uses this analogy, and it is so powerful. Where you have a painting on a piece of paper, right? Everyone appreciates the painting, but we forget about the paper. We forget that without the blank canvas, that painting wouldn't be beautiful. You, so it is similar when we look at these nuances of how you relate to your inner workings, your consciousness. And I also love the analogy of projecting, right? Let's say you were in school. I graduated in 2017. When I was in school, the reason I bring this up is depending on when you listen to this, projectors may be foreign. But right now, when I use the word projector, basically, if you have sunglasses, the lens of the glasses change what the color of the light projecting. And when you're in school and it's a holiday, they turn on the projector and you watch a movie, right? The movie is within the projector, then it's just the light. And that is the same mechanism of how consciousness works. What we're talking about is the almost reading in between the lines of, okay, how do you understand consciousness when it is almost so hidden? When it's not the easiest thing to necessarily look at, right? Again, I've been enjoying Alan Watts lately. It's like trying to bite your own teeth or touch the point of your finger with that finger. What does this all mean? That when you look at point number one of how suffering is just pain plus the story, the reason I've said everything I've just said is to make clear what is the story. Because if you can look at the pain without adding the importance of the identity, then you create space to not suffer, but to feel. This is one of the not easiest things. It's not one of the most straightforward. This is why I say continuously, I can't tell you step one, step two, step three. But foundationally, we do have the identity which must be understood. How those pillars create your memory, your knowledge, experience create memory. But beyond that, you have practical movement through life. Here's one kind of out there example, but there is a saying from the Bible which is, do not speak if you have nothing to say. And how I transmute that, how I kind of transcribe that, is that if you are feeling a type of way in which there is friction, you're probably better off not speaking. But the thing is, sometimes you're going to have to speak when the energy of the situation feels chaotic. It is through that courage that you learn how to hold and change your malevolent energy, if you will. Because you're going to have moments where, as you do this work, you catch yourself. You notice a urge to act from conditioning, which in other words is your identity. In other words, what your memory has created, how you see the world. But then you have this split second. It happens daily, it happens weekly, it happens continuously. As you do the work, you're going to have these split second moments where you have a choice. And that is, am I going to add to this? Am I going to add the story to the pain? Or am I going to create the space? How do you create the space, right? It sounds like a foreign metaphorical concept which may not be clear. How I create the space in life, I'll just list you a few foundational structures. Number one is exercise. Number two is nutrition. Number three is rest and recovery. And number four is stretching, keeping your body loose. So, And then I'll add a bonus, which is fresh air, getting fresh air. Those are very simple foundations. Now, that is void of interpersonal relationships, really. But as I say that, let me ask you one quick question. Have you ever regretted working out before? I ask that question because the foundational actions lead you to be feeling clear. When you are clear, interpersonal connection it is simple only when you're clear. So the real challenge is not how to be a better person. That's not the question. The real challenge is being honest with yourself about what you do which makes you unclear. It's the real question. That's the hard one. That's the one where your defense mechanism, which is the identity, in other words, the ego, in other words, Justin Matthew Egliskis, insert your name. We have the identity, and it's fully necessary. In my talks, I really hope that you understand that I'm not saying the ego is bad. I am doing my best to speak on the nuances, the subtleties, which allow for you to better understand the way that you color the lens in which you're projecting. Because when you are doing this work, then you'll have moments, you'll have insights that are so deep they break your heart, but they change you. They change you, they power you, they renew you. Hence why Christ was reborn. He, whether you want to say he came out of a tomb and he stayed in the tomb for days or not, I'm not arguing with the text. I'm rather saying that so much of how that man spoke was in a almost tricky sense. Parables, metaphors, not telling you do this or do that. And at the same time, there are certain things. He says, treat thy neighbor as thyself. Very straightforward. That means think of thy neighbor as thyself. That means if you see they dropped a $100 bill on their lawn, what would you want someone else to do if you dropped the $100 bill on your lawn? Do you say, oh, wow, $100 free. That's awesome. Or do you treat thy neighbor as thyself? Do you really sit and understand and take the time to, this is how compassion is born. You practice, not by force, but you continuously see that you have a choice. And the choice is what creates the practice. The practice is not forced, it is invoked because you have seen, is my life going to be suffering, or will I move through pain and learn? Because when you move through pain and learn, that means that you have seen what a lack of compassion does when you create that energy. And as you have a lack of compassion radiated from your spirit, that burns you. But in the burning, just as water is boiled, there is a purification. The question really is how much burning, how much fire do you need to let compassion begin to grow, right? Why did Christ use metaphors, parables, reaping, sowing, harvesting? Compassion is the seed of unconditional love. And you have to suffer to see that you are another. To have compassion in a manner in which you see through the identity. Whether it's this lady or this man, Joe or Schmo, compassion is the seed. Tell me, anyone who's ever been great, I can guarantee you that they have moments of Joe Schmo. Even if you're Joe All-Star. Joe All-Star was once Joe Schmo. The question really is how long does it take for the spirit to change? That's up to you. That's up to grace. That's up to surrender. That's up to alignment. That's up to change. Those are the things in which we have to talk about. They're words, but what do the words mean in your life, in your heart? I can't tell you There's too much content, there's too much beauty in life for me to tell you, do this, 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 and this. But to really, truly sit with the powerful essence, the pillars, the universal truths, the laws of compounding, sitting and understanding what you are rippling out into the world is the easiest, most direct form of letting compassion start to grow within you. Now, if we look at point number 2, why resistance to pain creates more pain, it's basically like God's saying to you, do you want less pain, right? And the nature of intelligence isn't dumb. If it was dumb, it would be like, do you want less pain? Okay, here's less pain. That would be boring. You're so much more intelligent than that. So therefore, the game goes more in a flavor of, oh, so you want less pain. Well, what does the pain mean to you? What does the pain communicate to you? You have to ask questions to get beneath the surface of the pain. You start to see that you create the pain. And you also have the power to let go of it or to hold on to it. And therefore, it is sort of like a python, which is now suffering. Hence why they use the snake. The snake is like a beautiful metaphor of a slow strangle, right? But can you feel yourself being strangled and learn that you are also the snake? Because then your relationship to the pain which you create starts to shine. You get a bit of insight into the interplay of how you create your own suffering. No one else is responsible for your suffering. I'll give you something practical. Two things happened a couple days ago, same day. Earlier in the day, my dog had a seizure. This was in the morning. I think he had a stroke and then a seizure. I was not home, I was at work. And then later in the day, my girlfriend has a seizure. Both in the same day. And for me, very powerful energy. I'm promising you, I'm not sitting there just meditating as my girlfriend's having a seizure. I'm holding her head, and then it seemed like she stopped breathing, so I give her CPR after that seizure. And then I have this trouble of not as if I'm above, not as if I've processed everything, but I feel like I'm ready to be grateful, right? Ready to really move forward. And it took everyone else a little bit longer, which I have to have compassion for. It took them longer to kind of recalibrate. I could just maybe 48 more hours than I. But the fact is, I was still in that environment. So I felt their energy. And it was almost eating me. I was ready to move through this. But when I'm in an environment, do you think I'm gonna how do I put it? Now, treat thy neighbor as thyself. What would I do if I had a seizure? Or how would I want I would want people to be patient with me. I would want people to be gentle with me. And I feel why I'm sharing this with you is because I feel the combatant energies in myself. I feel the contrast. I feel the invitation to feel the pain or to resist and start to blame others. I felt that. And of course, no, I didn't blame others, but I felt it. I thought it. I noticed the thinking. And this doesn't mean that I'm anything. I'm just sharing with you, like, man, these things happen. Life isn't always rainbows. Does that mean it's not beautiful, even when it's not rainbows? That's the question. Can you find beauty in the fact that the trees are barren in the winter? Fall is fall, right? The leaves are now pretty much gone. Is there still beauty in the season of barrenness? Can you notice that this is a time of preparation, right? Can you just sow and harvest and not, re-prepare the soil in the fields? No. So that's why you need these seasons. And this brings me to this point of if you so badly want something and someone just gave it to you, you'd be grateful for a short period of time. And then you'd realize, man, this isn't what I thought it was. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about, hey, you have the circumstances, the family, the situation, the troubles that you have. Can you find a place to change your heart, to let yourself be changed, rather, so that you can really let destiny guide you? Now, number 3, what to do when you're drowning in your own narrative. Very practically, you need to create the space. The simplest way to create the space without anything else is just fresh air. You need to get, like, wear the clothes so you're not complaining physically. Wear the right clothes and then go in fresh air, whatever the temperature is. If you can do a 45-minute walk plus, even without phone, I'm not saying you can't listen to podcasts, listen to something like this, but sometimes you just want nothing. And other times, yeah, do an audiobook from Dostoevsky. Listen to the Bible, listen to the Gita, listen to the Quran, listen to new YouTube perspectives. Turn on this podcast. Point is, you want to be changing. You're going to need fresh air, but you don't always need the same stimulus. Sometimes you need no stimulus. And from there, the reason I say this is because the fresh air helps you understand your maybe corrupted breath, your poisoned breath, your dirty voice, right? I use those words because the fresh air in nature can help to de-escalate your thinking, attaching mind of me, my worries, my pains, my goals, my troubles, all of that. It's still there, but you can walk through it physically as you walk through nature, fresh air, each breath. You notice the thoughts, you let go of the thoughts. You notice the thoughts, you let go of the thoughts. As you do this, though, your being, your energy, it starts to learn how to move properly again, how to flow. The dam gets teared down. You can't do that if you're constantly scrolling, constantly in stimulus, which revolves around identity. So sometimes I'm not saying go to the Himalayas. I'm saying you can walk down your street. I'm saying you can take a 5-minute drive to a state park. I know that's a bit hyper practical, but it's one of the things that has helped me so much is just fresh air, fresh air. I can feel what happens when I get obsessed with business and I do less walks. It suffocates me, literally suffocates me. And I just hope that you can at least get a little bit of juice from this. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. You have the power. You are the creator, not in this, you're God. You are God and you're not God. If you obsess over like too much spirituality, that's not it, because this world is very physical. The beauty is being in the duality without being attached to all of the things which the duality creates and acts, which you can only do through a balance, hence fresh air. But I'm here in my office. Is the podcast a business? It's much more than that. Could I make money from people who want to do this work one-on-one? I could. Is that why I'm creating this episode? No, it's not. Does that make sense? Where it's like, all right, I'm not saying everyone who is connected needs to be poor. And I'm not saying you need to be rich. I'm not creating this episode for one reason. It invigorates my heart. It could make me money, and it could help someone else. Win, win, win. The more that you stack win-win-wins that are aligned with your spirit, that is good. That is good. Hence, I said aligned with your spirit. Just because someone else says something is a win-win-win does not mean it's a win-win-win. You, in your heart, need to feel the alignment. And I trust that my heart, sure, I can promise you there are still things in me that need to be let go of. I can promise you that. But I don't think that my heart is too far off. And I trust that your heart is not too far off either. And that's why these words may hit you. That's why you may feel something. All I ask, if you do feel something, if these words do hit you, just share it. Share it with whomever. I really trust you to share it with the right person, okay? If you do, here's my practical distillation of all the philosophy. If you want to get into amazing shape, I have a $27 amazing blueprint that I poured my heart into. Check that out below at justinegliskis.com. And if you are not in the position to pay 27 bucks for the information that will simplify your physical excellence, then hey, just sign up for the emails, because the emails are written distillations of this. And sometimes it's good to, remind yourself of what you took 20 something minutes to listen to. You get it in a shorter form, like a 2-minute read. No fee or anything to sign up for the emails. Thank you so much for listening. New episodes are out Monday, Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm grateful, beyond grateful. Have an amazing day.